Well, good morning. I'm Robbie Smith, Program Manager in the Behavioral Traffic Safety section for the Texas Department of Transportation. As your host MC, I would like to welcome you to our 2021 Distracted Driving Summit. We have a lot of great speakers planned for you today. However, I have just a few announcements before we get started. I want to let you know that we'll probably have our first break around 10 a.m. and then we'll be breaking for lunch around noontime. Just so you'll know, during the lunch hour, please stop by our online expo hall during the breaks and visit our vendor booths. We also have a link to our mobile augmented reality game, Dart Those Distractions, in the game room section, so please check it out. To start us off, I would like to invite Michael Chacon to say a few words. He serves as our Traffic Safety Division Director for the Texas Department of Transportation. Michael?
All right, good morning and thank you, Robbie. So good morning, everyone. It is my honor to welcome you to the 2021 Distracted Driving Summit. I am humbled by the work you all do day in and day out to make Texas roads safer for everyone. Thank you for all that you do for taking the time to be with us here this morning. As you know, distracted driving continues to be a huge problem in our state and country, and it takes many forms ranging from texting, eating, grooming, or talking on the phone while driving. We are all here today to call attention to the many dangers and risks that come with such behaviors, which kills hundreds of Texans every year and injures thousands more. In 2020, we had 3,894 fatalities due to crashes on Texas roads. That was the highest fatality count since 1984. And unfortunately, this year, we are trending to have a higher fatality count compared to 2020. So last year, there were 80,485 distracted driving related crashes on Texas roadways. Those crashes resulted in 367 deaths and 2,205 serious injuries. With millions of drivers now using cell phones in their vehicles to talk and text, our roadways are becoming more dangerous for everyone. Almost one in 5 traffic crashes in Texas is caused by a distracted driver. These crashes are 100% preventable if people simply put away their phones and other distractions when they get behind the wheel and give driving their full attention. We must do whatever we can to discourage all forms of distracted driving with the overall goal of saving lives and reducing crashes. We understand that folks may be more distracted due to the health and financial challenges many are facing due to COVID. But as we learn to cope with this new normal, we have to remember to stay focused on the road while driving. We want people across Texas to understand that driving safely is a very serious matter, and it takes paying complete attention when you're behind the wheel to get to your destination safely. That means no eating, reading, or adjusting your radio while driving. When you take your focus off the road, you put not only yourself at risk, but everyone around you, whether they're loved ones in the car with you or strangers walking, biking, or driving on the same road. We have to remember that those statistics I cited earlier are people with family, friends, and coworkers. Losing even one life causes a huge ripple effect of loss. Every day for nearly 21 years, at least one person has died on Texas roadways. We have to end this streak of daily deaths on Texas roadways. Our last deathless day on Texas roadways was November 7th of 2000. That is something we just got to stop. TxDOT aims to reach a goal to end all fatalities on Texas roads by 2050. We also set a goal of cutting fatal crashes in half by 2035. But we all know traffic crashes are more than just numbers, and that's why we are all dedicated to this effort. As part of that effort, TxDOT's Talk, Text, Crash distracted driving campaign is a key component of #InTheStreetTexas, a broader social media and word of mouth effort that encourages drivers to make safer choices while behind the wheel, such as wearing a seatbelt, driving the speed limit, never texting and driving, and never driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Thank you for joining us today as we discuss causes of distracted driving and take a look at the many efforts aimed at tackling the problem. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Jamie White, founder of Allie's Way. She will share her family's heartbreaking story and how they are using the loss of their beloved 3-year-old daughter, Allie Estelle, to shed light on the tragic consequences that distracted driving can have. Jamie, thank you for joining us today and for sharing your story.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that introduction. So Allie Estelle White was a beautiful 2-year-old little girl. She had blonde hair and these sparkling blue eyes and these beautiful rosy cheeks, and her personality was bigger than her body. She was born on December 8th, 2016, and she only weighed 6 pounds, 6 ounces. And though she was healthy, she was always really small and really petite. From the time she was born, she brought immense love and laughter and joy and fullness to our family. She would often loudly sing her favorite Disney songs like Moana and Rapunzel. And she loved to climb on the playscape or jump on the trampoline with her brothers and watch them play sports. I would always say she was the icing on the cake, because she really was our unexpected gift from God. She completed our family. And she was the light of our lives. But that beautiful light dimmed on Sunday, September 29th, 2019, when a woman made the decision to drive distracted in a soccer field parking lot, ending Allie's life within minutes. That morning, we went to church together and we doted on sweet Allie, and she was kneeling in the pews. She was pointing to Jesus. She was enjoying lots of hugs and kisses from us that morning. And then we went home. Chris and our son started to leave to go to a soccer practice or a soccer game. And Allie insisted on going with them because she loved watching them play. While Allie's older sister and I went to religious education, Allie couldn't resist watching her brothers play soccer, and she wanted to do everything they did, of course. So Chris arrived at the field and parked his car in the closest possible parking spot, which was just across from the parking spots across from against the field. His parking spot was right beside a median next to the thoroughfare. And since he was parked at the end of a row of parking spaces, he and the kids could be seen from far away because there were no obstructions of view. He left the car running with the air conditioner on so that he could keep Allie safely in her car seat while he walked the two boys across that small feeder lane to get to the field. Once they were safely on the field, he came back, got Allie out of the car, put the sunscreen on her, went to put the sunscreen can back in the car, and within that split second, Allie saw her brother waving at her from the edge of the field, and she started heading in the direction towards the feeder lane. Chris saw her and tried to grab her because he noticed a car was speeding into the parking lot and it was heading in their direction from the main road. But the woman decided to make a quick turn right, which he did not expect, into that feeder lane without looking first to make sure there were no pedestrians in her path. Allie stepped off the curb and was hit by the woman's front fender, knocking her down to the ground. She would have been okay because Chris had her hands on her and he was ready to pull her up and get her out of the way, but the woman was moving way too fast and she hit and killed Allie with her rear tire before he could get her out of the way. The woman stopped her car about 5 feet from where Allie was run over, but did not get out of the car until an eyewitness was screaming at her to call 911. She was so distracted on that cell phone call that she didn't even feel the importance to call 911 or to figure out what she ran over. So at that point, the woman got out of the car. She was holding her cell phone to her face while she was driving, which is why she didn't see Allie. And she told police she thought she ran over a soccer ball. She was not looking where she was driving the moment she decided to turn into that feeder road from the thoroughfare. And if she had looked before she was turning, Allie would still be alive with us today. And she would have been celebrating her 3rd birthday that December of 2019. So I would like to share some moments with Allie so you can see what kind of personality she was.
Good morning.
Give me that chin.
Are you saying Baby Tyler?
No, this is Baby Dad.
Baby Daddy?
No. I'll do outside the birthday. On the hat on the hair. Hi, Allie.
Hi, Allie.
Hi, Allie. Mommy.
What'd you see over there, Allie?
I did that one and no tooth.
You say hi, Bunny? Where's your bunny?
Yes.
Oh.
Hey, baby, I will. Yes, so we must go. One in the mother, one in the gym. One be a yaki, down the lake.
Silly girl.
You just had. It's already lovely. I have with me. Come like it.
And you say, I love you, Mama Peppa.
Miss you.
I'm going to also show you another video that I have to show you the extreme issues that were happening that day. This basically goes over the route where she was killed. And as you can see, there were no obstructions. This should have never happened. And this is how severe this problem has become. This lot is the parking lot where Allie was killed. As you can see, when you go to the entrance of this parking lot, there are no speed bumps, no rumble strips. There's nothing to slow cars down. In fact, they can merge straight onto this main thoroughfare without even slowing down. The speed limit on the main road is supposed to be 25 miles per hour. We know more than anything that people go well above 25 miles per hour and have been caught going above 25 miles per hour in this parking lot. This is the spot where Allie was killed, the exact spot. She stepped off the curb. She wasn't even halfway into this strip of aisle here, and she was hit. She was hit right at this point. Middle of the road would have been right here. She wasn't even in the middle, and she was making her way to the soccer field right there. As you can tell, this is a wide open area. There are no obstructions, nothing to prevent the driver from having seen her. The
The only obstruction was her cell phone. This is where Allie would have been when I'm standing in the position Allie would have been in when she got hit. Though as Allie, she was this little, so this would have been her view. My husband and Allie had previously been standing right here. No obstructions, nothing to prevent the driver from seeing them. And of course, even this tree wasn't as low as it is right now. It was much, it had much less leaves on it at that point. Because we've had a freeze, everything has kind of started growing back oddly. So the driver would have seen Allie if she hadn't been on her cell phone.
So was that phone call worth a child's life? I guess that's the big question, that we need to ask, and that drivers need to ask themselves: is it worth it? It was a devastating loss for us. Shattered dreams happen of a brilliant future, and ending that light that shines so brightly for us and our family. Though life will never be the same for us, Allie's life is shining again, but just in a different way. So we've created Allie's Way. It's our nonprofit organization to build awareness for this problem so that other families don't have to suffer the tragic loss that we've suffered and continue to suffer every day. Allie's Way advocates for hands-free laws. We build awareness. We encourage parking lot safety measures like speed bumps, in particular where parks and recreational areas are and where there are children present. We are also promoting Pink Nail Week throughout the year in different months, September being one of them. So if you feel compelled to do so, we encourage you to paint your nail pink for Allie, just one. And that way it's a reminder to always put your cell phone down while you're driving the car. And we are definitely going to encourage this the week of September 29th, which would be her second anniversary of her death. Allie's Way announces events like this through social media, such as Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, and our website, which is allieswaycorporation.org. So all of those links are on there. I try my best to keep the news events up to date on that website. You can also buy merchandise, donate to Allie's Way, and donate to our scholarship, which I will be happy to tell you about here in a minute. Allie's Way is a partner also with apps like Safe to Save. They are amazing, and they encourage distracted-free driving. In fact, Safe to Save is hosting a Greater Austin Safe Driving Competition in partnership with the City of Austin, State Farm, and Farm and City. So that would be a great thing to participate in, please, and spread the word. Allie's Way has also partnered with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension for their passenger safety program. We even have, as I said, an Allie Estelle White Memorial Scholarship Fund at Texas A&M to help a mechanical engineering student, because that's where my husband went to school. So we continue to be very active in the area as our new teen group called Allie's Angels now serves the community and families who've also lost loved ones, in particular due to distracted driving. So we experience the pain and suffering, as I said, every day of our lives. And we've been so incredibly blessed to have the immense support from the community, from TxDOT, from everybody during those intense times. So we want to be that support for other people. Our mission is to end fatalities through awareness, bring light, love, and compassion to victims, and serve our community in Allie's precious name. But we can't do this alone. And we need as much help as possible building awareness. And here are some ways that people can help. Spread the word about Allie's Way. Visit our social media pages. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Donate to Allie's Memorial Scholarship Fund. And definitely, please sign up for Safe to Save driving competition. That's going to be a really good one. So while we can't bring Allie back, we can strive to protect others from the same fate. So please remember Allie when you have the urge to pick up that cell phone while driving, because a phone call or text is not worth ending a life. And that's Allie's way. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie, for being here today and sharing your family story. At TxDOT, through our traffic safety campaigns and education, we bring awareness and education to help stop distracted driving. So we are all touched by your story and just want to say thank you again for being with us here today. Just a few housekeeping notes before I introduce our next speakers. During each session, please feel free to use the Q&A tabs to the right of the window to ask a question, and also use the chat tab, for more general comments. Also, please fill out our summit evaluation at the end of the day, which can be found in the attendee lounge. Next, I would like to welcome our partners at the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, better known as NHTSA. Dr. Maggi Gunnels is the Regional Administrator of Region 6, and we also have the Region 6 Regional Program Manager, Becky Walker. Together, they're going to help us fully understand the problem of distracted driving. I will now turn it over to our NHTSA representatives.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for making time in your busy schedules to be here today. You know, I really wish each and every Texan could hear Allie's story and be as moved as I am, as we all are, and really be moved to join her family's quest to end distracted driving. I wish all Texans could hear this, because I would hope that that would move them to join their quest. It's really important to truly understand the dangers of driving and texting and doing so many other things that distract drivers when they're on our roads. I was in Dallas yesterday, and I was reminded of how much work we really have to do looking at everyone around me on the freeways and the tollways of Dallas. I wanted to take a moment to express my appreciation to Michael Chacon, Mark Williams, and our entire team of colleagues over at the Texas Department of Transportation, as well as our colleagues at the Texas Transportation Institute. Thank you all so much for having this wonderful summit. And of course, I really want to thank each of you again for all the great work that you do. Today, we have this opportunity to continue in the virtual world, which really in some ways, in many ways, has provided some advantages and given us the opportunity to extend our reach, our safety messages and campaigns. But I will say that I miss talking with everyone and seeing everyone in person. So I really am looking forward to the time when we can do that again. Today, my colleague, Becky Walker, and I will be talking to you about distracted driving, focusing on definitions, data, and everything NHTSA is doing. Be sure to look in the handout section where you're going to find all kinds of resources that will point you to throughout this presentation. And most of all, we do need to strengthen. We need to double down. We need to really come together on our call to action to end distracted driving. But let's take a look at the definition once again, just to remind us what the definition is of distracted driving, because there are a number of elements to it. It's not simple. And of course, most importantly, what are we doing to stop it? So the NHTSA definition broadly defines distraction as really anything that can take visual, manual, or cognitive tasks or resources away from the driving task, from the actual driving task. Sometimes you'll hear about the auditory component as the fourth type of distraction. This is not necessarily a hard and fast rule, but this simply reminds us how many aspects there are to the definition. We're often asked, which is the most dangerous? Well, the response is all types of distraction are dangerous. But I think we all know anecdotally, as well as from a scientific standpoint, that when multiple forms of distraction are occurring, that's when a driver gets into the most trouble on the road. That really is the worst case scenario. Wanted to touch just a moment on the national glimpse, if you will, at the current laws. And again, there'll be some information in your handouts from groups like the National Council of State Legislatures that support some of the data you see in these slides. But as you can see, we have a ways to go in terms of laws throughout the states. And I know a number of you have been fighting for these laws in Texas. But handheld cell phone use is only a law in about half the states, DC and a few of the US territories. Cell phone use, again, no states prohibit all cell phone use for drivers, but there are some exceptions for novice drivers, school bus drivers, at least in some of the states. And text messaging has had the most success in terms of laws that prohibit or ban text messaging, texting and driving. So, but there's still a few states that need to come together. So here is what the text messaging ban laws look like if you're looking at a map across the states. And of course, we all know that primary enforcement is ideal, where the driver can actually be stopped because the law enforcement officer has seen evidence of texting and driving. Making it a primary law is always the goal, but secondary enforcement can happen as well. So when someone might be stopped for speeding or not wearing a seatbelt, a citation can be issued. I don't know if you're surprised or not that there are still 2 states standing out that do not have an all driver texting ban. And of course, laws do vary somewhat state to state, but at least there's a lot of progress been made here. Less progress on handheld cell phone use bans. And here you see the West really leading the way, as well as the northeastern part of the United States. But half the states, again, we have a long way to go. And the language in terms of these laws is very specific and can really change the implications of the enforcement aspects of a law. They do vary state to state, but at least more people seem to be understanding, at least the public, that handheld cell phone use is not a good idea while driving. And speaking of laws, this is what I mentioned earlier that most of you know. And of course, these are some of the exceptions or caveats, and every state is different. Texas has a handheld ban in school zones, which is really great. And it really is important to know the laws in your state, in our state of Texas, because we all know that one size does not fit all. And of course, one thing to be aware of, especially in Texas, especially right now, are these highway construction zones where there are safety risks for the workers on the roadside, as well as safety risks for drivers, motorists, and frankly, individuals inside and outside vehicles. Wanted to just take a moment to talk about sort of the history, the evolution of NHTSA's distracted driving mitigation efforts. And so that's what I'm going to do now. About 10, well, I guess now we're looking at 11 or 12 years ago, much of the work started at the Department of Transportation level. And that's when different stakeholders were brought to the table by the then secretary and started looking very specifically at what we can do. And also, a good news story is that the president did issue directives that prohibited federal employees from texting while driving government vehicles and while using government cell phones while driving any vehicle. So that was a start. Of course, many employers have taken these kinds of directives, which is really terrific. But it really was some of the earlier work that was done on this issue. And of course, thankfully, data collection has continued, though there's a long way to go. And the early stakeholders are groups like the AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Hispanic American Police Commanders Association, and of course, groups like the Governor's Highway Safety Association. Just a little look at how things started. And of course, at NHTSA, we have many different offices that work on these issues, whether it be our National Center for Statistics and Analysis, our Research and Development Group. We have a specific behavioral safety research group, as well as the vehicle safety group. But a number of programs, our communications colleagues, many different offices across the agency that work specifically on these issues. And something that we're all aware of is that NHTSA does have grant programs that provide funding for efforts related to distracted driving prevention and mitigation. And you might not know that actually within the Office of Regional Operations and Program Development, which includes all the regional offices across the country, we do have a distracted driving committee that share information, share ideas, share strategies, and we always like to hold up programs that work and talk about them. And just a few notes about data, and I think, as Michael Chacon has often said, we are extremely concerned about the trends in Texas. And of course, the fact that there are no deathless days and haven't been for a very long time, but also the fact that during 2020, we saw significant increases in fatalities and other types of crashes. And sadly, that's continued into 2021. So here's a look at the pandemic data or pre-pandemic data. We already knew we had a significant problem related to distracted driving before the pandemic. So here comes the pandemic, and we know that fatal crashes are increasing. We know that problems are worsening. This still is a significant problem, even though we knew at this time that we needed to collect more accurate data. It's probably underreported. It was still a problem. And of course, we have different data systems at NHTSA, and you'll see information in our handout section, but go ahead and take a look. There's been a number of changes and updates to our reports and some of our fact sheets, and try to take a look every once in a while because we're doing lots of new data collection or data analysis. And another note on distracted driving crash data, where it's not only a concern for drivers of any age, but in particular, as we all know, a concern for younger drivers. And again, probably underreported. We know we have gaps in our data, but we know that this population, this age group is very at risk for a number of things, including distracted driving. And just a note on the NOPAS, which is the National Occupant Protection Use Survey that I think many of you, if not all, are familiar with. When you look at pre-pandemic, there's still some great information in there. I say great information. There's some troubling information about how many drivers were holding the phones to their ears at any typical daylight moment, which seemed to be higher among female drivers. And again, this reflects this younger population, younger driver phenomenon, if you will. So this is an observational survey. It's a snapshot. Some of you probably collected some of this data, but this does give you the most recent current national numbers on NOPAS. And so I am going to actually toss the ball, if you will, literally over to my colleague, Becky Walker. And I'd like to say thank you again. And we are so pleased to have an opportunity to speak with you today. And again, I really look forward to seeing you in person, live and in person, but happy to be here virtually. So Becky, I don't have a ball, but here you go. Thank you all.
Thank you, Maggie. I'm going to start off with a brief discussion of what's happening at NHTSA and some of the media tools states can use from NHTSA's Office of Communications and Consumer Information. The best place to find NHTSA creative material is on TSM, Traffic Safety Marketing. I've loaded the link to TSM in the upload handout area of our presentation, or you can just as easily Google search Traffic Safety Marketing, and you'll see several of the campaigns NHTSA has for distracted driving. Several other program areas are available to check out as well, and each topic is divided by its issue and can be easily found. All materials can be used. All information related to distracted driving and other issues as well on TSM is available for use. Anything that is a .gov is public domain. We can all use it because we all own it. On the traffic safety marketing site, you'll find templates for press releases and editorials and samples for all the different mediums to use in its ad campaigns. We create sample materials where you can simply fill in the blanks. We want to give our partners and law enforcement agencies a springboard of ideas to use with the media. The message behind these samples create a positive shift in motorist behaviors, which helps save lives. Plus, you don't have to recreate the wheel. These ads and videos are free and available for use. And just a few examples from traffic safety marketing with posters and various logos to download and use. Here's an example of a powerful message that gets folks thinking about the what if factor. And I do want to give a forewarning here. There is a crash scene near the end, so I wanted to give everybody advance notice about that.
More texting and driving, man. You okay?
I just wish this never happened.
You okay?
Yeah, this just never happened.
That's a great example of a powerful message that gets folks thinking and quite an attention getter. If you need a slightly shorter clip, that one had some length to it, but if you need a shorter clip, if the airtime requirement is shorter, we have that for you here as well. All right, we're going to move on to NHTSA's Office of Behavioral Safety Research, which is a vast resource of a warehouse of knowledge for states. Let's start with something coming up in the very near future. There are current and ongoing studies that are to be presented soon and an ongoing survey. Here's a sneak peek of what NHTSA often prepares literature reviews on behavioral safety topics. These reviews are critical for updating our knowledge of an issue, and they also serve as a resource in traffic safety. The objective of this first project is to prepare a state of knowledge literature review report on the behavioral aspects of distracted driving with a focus on portable electronic device use. The last State of Knowledge report on distracted driving was in 2008, so this report is all the more important. This update review will comprehensively scan the literature, obtain and compile documents, then critically review these documents and objectively synthesize the research. It also will draw conclusions that allow a solid understanding of the topic and the basis for sound policy decisions. It's going to be a great resource for the states. Another study that's coming our way is on advanced driver assistance system and distraction. We're wondering if highly automated vehicles, and in this case, level 2 systems, actually increase distracted driving behaviors. If so, where and when? So the pilot study, which will be done, this is going to be a pilot study, it's going to be done in a naturalistic setting, will actually be a feasibility study, which is part of the initial design stage of any project design. It is conducted in order to objectively uncover the strengths and weaknesses of doing this kind of study, and this is only the first step. So eventually we're going to assess whether the use of advanced driver assistance systems increase distracted driving behaviors, especially with the non-driving related tasks, and if so, determining where and when the behaviors occur, as well as the safety implications. And it's good to point out that this portion of the pilot will use naturalistic data collection for the feasibility assessment portion. They're getting real people in real settings to ascertain the data. The timetable for all of this looks like this. The pilot study should be conducted in the summer to the fall of 2022. We're working out the details of the pilot study and have not finished or finalized the locations just yet. The final deliverable for the study is a feasibility assessment, and we are discussing whether it will come out in the final form. It's yet to be determined at this point, but may be used only as a springboard for future project developments. We're in the early stages of this project and hope to have some of these details solidified within the next few months. I do have a link for this project. It's in the TRB research progress link. And if you wanted that, it's also included in the handout area of this presentation. Other projects from NHTSA that are coming down the pike in this section will discuss projects from NHTSA's Occupant Protection Division. This project is called Using Observations to Increase Distracted Driving Enforcement, is a demonstration project in 3 states, Minnesota, Illinois, and South Carolina. It trains law enforcement officers to collect observational data that they can use to better enforce the law in their communities. It encourages this enforcement, particularly during the annual Distracted Driving campaign in April and throughout the year, using distracted driving observations, messaging, and active enforcement plans. I want to highlight this project because it's currently on pause due to COVID. They are in the process of getting it back up and running again, but in the meantime, there are some definite unknowns. The advantage to Texas is to get the results of this project once it's available, once it returns, to see if this is something that Texas could be interested in, and maybe even to test out a strategy to create a possible how-to guide. Here's another project from NHTSA that's coming our way. This project is another contract through procurement with bids for proposals, and it's for 24 months. The contractor will recruit the participants. Here's what we're able to do on this. NHTSA has received proposals, and the contract will be awarded soon. Once that's done, the contractor selects the sites and entities to participate. We call them community champions. So if you know of a locality that's interested in being part of this project, please feel free to express this interest to me. It's always good to know the sites and the localities that are interested. And I have my contact information on the very last slide. This is a good tool for law enforcement that was published in 2020. Yes, it's from different states, but sometimes that can be most beneficial to Texas. Here are a good few ideas to help with lessons already learned. The guide describes 3 NHTSA-funded enforcement demonstration programs held at 6 sites: Hartford, Connecticut, Syracuse, New York, Sacramento Valley, California, Delaware, the Southwest area surrounding Danbury, Connecticut, and a suburban area of Boston, Massachusetts. The key lessons learned describe insights and ideas for law enforcement and state highway safety offices to consider as tactics to combat distracted driving. We're going to talk about this more in the next slide. So here are the different enforcement techniques they tried. They are included in this report, Distracted Driving Enforcement Demonstrations, Lessons Learned. So you can see what they did, and the report allocates what worked best and the takeaways from these projects. Although it does not have an evaluation component, it doesn't say one technique is better than the other technique. It's more of a resource to states that might want to implement one or more of those techniques. Because enforcement of distracted driving is difficult, here's a good guide to various methodologies and how to implement them. And clearly, for the sites tested, as you can see, roving patrols showed up pretty strong. So did spotter techniques and stationary covert enforcement. Those showed up consistently as well. Let's change gears a little bit to Distracted Driving Awareness Month. It's usually in April for NHTSA, but in 2020, NHTSA moved it to October due to COVID. But this year we're back on schedule. So it was in April of 2021, and we anticipate it to be in April again of 2022. A component of Distracted Driving Awareness Month is the Connect to Disconnect initiative. We call it C2D. This is a one-day National Distracted Driving Enforcement and Awareness Initiative coordinated by state highway safety offices and law enforcement agencies across the country. It uses creative enforcement strategies and awareness efforts in earned and paid media, as well as social media. Law enforcement joins together and sends a zero tolerance message to the public that driving distracted on America's roadways will result in a ticket. Some of the best parts of C2D is that both the time period, the 4-hour time slot, and the locations are determined by the participating law enforcement agencies. There are a number of enforcement strategies that have been successfully implemented and documented. And for media coverage, we encourage press releases, pre-arranged and scheduled press coverage the day of the event or shortly thereafter to discuss the results, such as interviews on local TV and radio or newspapers. These are some of the images from across the country on the success of last April's Connect to Disconnect 2021. We had participation across the country, including New Mexico, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Mississippi, and a shout out to right here in Texas, to Williamson County with the Sheriff's Office. Great job, folks. Please feel free to contact me or Maggie, either one of us or
Many
both,
thanks
for any
to
questions you may
Program
have.
Area
Many
Manager
thanks to
Robbie
TxDOT's
Smith
Program
and
Area
all the good
Manager
folks at
Robbie Smith, and
TxDOT's
all the good
Behavioral
folks at
Traffic Safety Section,
TxDOT's
as well
Behavioral
as the
Traffic
safety
Safety
professionals
Section,
at
as well
Texas
as the safety
Transportation
professionals
Institute.
at
Last but
Texas
not least, our very own Tom
Transportation
Kiker.
Last but not least, our very own Tom Kiker, my colleague here at NHTSA. So now I'm going to open up the communication here to everyone for our Q&A session.
There is still one question out there, and they are looking for the handouts.
Yes, handouts are absolutely listed in our handout section, appropriately named. So it's there, and we should be good to go.
Are there any other questions? If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A. Someone has asked, is there a way to get involved in C2D?
Okay, hello.
Oh, hi.
Due to technical difficulties, we're going to team this together. So, all right. So, what were the questions again?
Sorry, Robbie. Our camera got stuck.
That's okay. Corey has asked, is there a way to get involved in C2D?
Oh, absolutely. Feel free to reach out and contact and holler at us, as we say here in Texas. So, yes, please do. And even Williamson County Sheriff's Office did a great job as well. So you can always holler at them and see what worked for them and what didn't work. So yes, happy to help you out with that.
Okay, we do have another question here. Are there talks about harsher laws for texting and driving?
You know, every session, some bill gets dropped, introduced, and unfortunately, strengthening the distracted driving law this past legislative session during the special session, it didn't even get a read out of committee, unfortunately. So, unfortunately, it did die in committee, but there's always hope for the future that we can continue to strengthen our distracted driving laws. Interestingly enough, one thing I do want to point out, y'all remember the maps that we were showing, the hands-free law starts on the East Coast, and then there's some on the West Coast. And as you can see, as time goes by, more and more states are the ones, it feels like the blue, you know, the white is the one in the middle that doesn't have the hands-free law. The blue on the outside of our country have these hands-free distracted driving laws. And in the middle, you can see it just gradually over time encroaching into the middle. It's very interesting to see that happen, that progression.
Yeah. We're laughing. It's now we see each other. Okay. Hello.
Okay.
Robbie?
Yes.
I just wanted to mention something since we had a second. I know that Michael Chacon always does such a great job talking about data, but There's one thing I meant to mention that I didn't, and that is, we talk a lot about fatal crashes, but I know everyone here, we're equally concerned about injury crashes. And I would say the same challenges apply to collecting the injury data as well. And, the idea of not a deathless day on Texas roads, in, 2 decades or more, about 2 decades, a little bit more, is just really challenging. And then one of the things I did also want to mention to the group is that I think the handouts are short, according to Jessica, I think. We do have that first quarter data nationally for fatality estimates, which if you look into it, it shows that this part of the country has an 11% increase. It's probably going to be higher. I mean, and when you all are looking at that data, think about the fact that, Texas obviously is the keystone state. And when you're comparing us to other states, that means more people have died. I mean, it's significantly more people have died. So, and then finally, I did want to mention too that, I mean, it's just so troubling, the impact of speeding, which I think makes it different than when they're doing research in the northeastern part of the United States versus, we really need a speed study in this part of the world, because speeding is just, I would say, unprecedented right now. So I just wanted to mention those things, Robbie, when we're thinking about data and what we need to look at and collect.
Okay, I'm looking in the chat. I'm looking at the Q&A. Okay, wow, here's a long question. Okay, here we go. Are you aware of research or campaigns being done to combat distractions by mobile device and the use of social media while driving?
Well,
that's part A.
Okay, so yes,
Yeah.
all the way around. Specifically targeting social media, not so much, but what we can't, because it's so very difficult, first of all, to cite and find the statistics to begin with distraction, because, well, people hide it pretty well. But we do have some great traffic safety facts that I have uploaded into the handout section. In fact, so many. This one's jumping out at me in particularly. 6% of all drivers involved in fatal crashes in 2019 were reported as distraction at the time of the crash. This part is heartbreaking to me. 9% of drivers 15 to 20 years old involved in fatal crashes were reported as distracted. Y'all, this is the largest proportion. They're overrepresented for their age category who were distracted at the time of the fatal crash. So.
And if you're talking more about social media as, a means of, as one of the reasons folks are looking at their phones, which, Instagram or whatever media they're looking at, I think there's a lot of opportunity to do research in that area. And I think we all know the other thing that I know I've seen, I'm sure most of us have, is the use of a camera while driving.
Oh yeah,
that brings me to the next question, the part B. Since our law is texting and driving, how can we address the behavior of TikTok and driving, Snapchat and driving? Would love to see more messaging that resonates with our young drivers.
Yes,
we'll take that, and we really will take that back to our group. We haven't been out in the world as much, but that's something we can work on. And I think, thank you for raising that. So we'll take that back.
Actually, just also straight from this too is we have a traffic safety fact that is in the handout area as well. Driver electronic device use in 2019. Drivers visible manipulation of handheld devices increased 2.1% in 2018 to 2.9% in 2019. And that, although it sounds
to be an underestimate,
that is actually, that is statistically a huge, significant increase.
So it's got to be a lot more than that.
Okay, we have one other question here. Do you have a landing page that helps combat the why people drive distracted?
Specific to distracted driving?
There, on traffic safety marketing, there's a lot of that, but as far as causation,
I don't think so.
not cause it. what we do is we do find out the stats, the studies, and things around that, but causation is a different matter altogether.
And then that takes us back to the, to the very definition, because as we've heard, today already, there's so much. We have the technical definition of distracted driving, but so much goes into it, and there's so much changing every day. So that's something that also, let us take that back too and talk about that some more.
Right, and capturing those changes.
We know that
too.
we have opportunities to improve our website. But in the meantime, you can always contact us and we'll help guide you through it.
Well, that is all the questions. There's nothing else in the chat. I think you guys are good.
Well, thank you for having us, Robbie. Thank you, everyone.
And thank y'all for understanding technical glitches. It happens.
Yes. I'm on the floor, but it's good.
No. We want to say thank you for being with us here today. We appreciate you. You've been our partners, and we look forward to much continued success together.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do too. Thank you all very much.
Okay. Well, this brings us to our first break. It is a few minutes before 10 o'clock. We will reconvene at 10:30. I encourage you to please stop by our expo hall and check out the goodies. All right, we'll see you at 10:30. Bye-bye for now.